episode number 157. Thank you for our sponsor, ServerPress, Maker's Desktop Server. They make local WordPress development easy. Go check them out over at serverpress.com. Develop your brand aesthetic with Adobe Sparks and Big Orange Heart. If you like this content, support us over on Patreon. Go over to patreon.com/WPwatercooler.
What's up, everyone? How's it going? Bridget, it's fun. It's fun to try something new. So I want to say thank you all that are watching on the show. But we're gonna be doing some fun stuff today. We're gonna be talking with our friend Carin. Carin does some really interesting things online, and we want to kind of go through and kind of dig through it and talk about it. Like the intro said, we're gonna be talking about mobile first marketing strategies. No, we're not talking about mobile marketing strategies. Oh my gosh, my script's all screwed up. We're going to talk about reconciling social distancing. Yes. If you want to do mobile strategies, we can do that.
That is so not me.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing, we're going to be talking about reconciling social distancing and in-person sales today. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting topic to discuss because of the times that we live in, the things that are going on around us. I've been watching a lot of advertising where every single, I actually watched live TV last night for the first time in probably 6 or 7 years. Yeah. And every ad was just in a world. And it was just so dark and cold and scary. Wow. And I'm just wow, how are you people watching advertising like this? Are you kidding me? I had to watch the Parks and Rec special that they did. And so I really needed to watch that. And the only way to watch it was to watch it live. So
lucky you.
And so Carin, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing. And then I also want to hear about what you're doing now, and kind of get us started a little bit on that part of it.
Okay, great. Yes, I'm a realtor. I'm an advocate. I really enjoy what I do. I am not common in a lot of ways. You would think a realtor is. And by that, what I mean is I really do take one client at a time. And, cool. And so it's a little less conventional. But in real estate, you can kind of make what you want to make. You can, I love the freedom of being able to work the way I want to work. And I don't necessarily, I'm not going to gel with every single client. They're not going to gel with me. Yes, we all need to make a living. But I think what's interesting, I'm just going to get right into the COVID thing in a way. Because I've been doing this since really full time since 2008. And I actually started in 2004 when it was everybody's selling real estate, but I didn't do it for 4 years because I was raising children and I had a father-in-law that had dementia, and I was just kind of thrown into that. And so I really didn't start till he went into assisted living. And so since 2008, I've been doing this, and I'll tell you, right from the get-go, I always knew that I wanted to I was so fascinated with the people part of this business. And the COVID thing, in a way, hasn't really changed the way I work or the way I process. It has raised what my philosophy already is. And what that is that, we don't know our clients' stories. When we first meet people, we have no clue. We assume, and I'm the same way, we judge, we assume, this must be your situation or that must be your situation, and you better do something about it. You better sell, or, so I think during this time, it's very important to listen and even more so now, because this is not a time to, like for me anyway, this is not time to work on lead generation or, we can't do networking things in person. And things like this, like it's really great to connect face to face, even on a computer screen. But this is really the time to understand what a client is going through, or a prospective client. Okay, so I'm just diving right into that. Is okay?
Well, no,
Yeah,
it's good because like I know a little bit more because you've kind of niched out in real estate with selling a parent's home
Yeah.
so that they can go to assisted living.
Yeah. I do
Yeah.
have
And so you're working with children who may not even get along, who are dealing with a very difficult situation.
Right.
So, and it sounds to me like you started at a really bad time to be.
I totally did. Nowhere to go but up. And that's a good point, Bridget, because working with my father-in-law, having to deal with that started that spark, working with seniors. So I will just kind of backtrack a little bit. And that's really been my main passion, is working with seniors, families. What do you do? Somebody's lived in the house for 35 years. And I've had such an incredible amount of stories I have saved, like you learn, nobody's the same. Nobody's the same. I don't care if you have, mom needs to go to assisted living and then the next time dad needs to go to assisted living. Completely different stories, even though it's a similar situation. So to put that in perspective, working with seniors, working with families with seniors takes a lot of the patience, and especially, again, going back and forth with COVID. I'll give you an example. I sold, I'm going to say her name, just her first name, Norma. She was my very first senior client back in 2009, and she recently passed away. We became really good friends, and now I'm working with her daughter. Her daughter is, she needs to sell her mom's manufactured home. And she wanted to do this maybe over a year ago. Well, now her mom has passed away. And of course, now we have COVID. And she was already kind of hesitant. Her daughter just so overwhelmed for a bunch of other reasons, because she was taking care of her father-in-law. I mean, her father was in assisted living as well. And then her mom was in board and care. I mean, just this whole thing. Okay. So, and she's an only child. So I really have a lot of empathy for caregivers. And it's a very difficult decision. Okay, well, we're going to sell this house and I don't really know what to do. Anyway, now we have COVID, and now I just talk to her and I keep in touch with her. How are you? What's going on? How are you feeling? Now her mom has passed away. So you've got this double whammy of losing a parent. You were already hesitant about selling because it's so overwhelming, right? And you have to go through things. You have to go through the stuff. And I think part of what I do is we're a sounding board, and we're not here to sell. And all this talk about, I want to be your trusted advisor. I'm going to be your trusted advisor, Carin, the realtor.
Which has to be tricky, though, to be the trusted advisor in this situation, right?
It is really tricky. And that's why there's this fine line, because there's this fine line, like I want to sell. I mean, I have a living, right? This is what I do for a living. And at the same time, what I want, why would that be more important than what a client wants? So it's a marriage. It's sort of like you have to be pretty intuitive and understand the motivation. And motivation is not a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing to pull out and really figure what a client wants. And I'm not a stat person. I know that's really weird for a realtor to say. You won't see graphs, you won't see, and I appreciate statistics, and I am grateful for statistics and people who do that. And I will research and learn, but I'm not a natural, understatement, statistician when it comes to numbers in real estate.
Is that because of the clientele that you have, and that you're having to present your findings in a way that they're able to absorb and not feel like you're BSing them with graphs and charts?
I think that we all have talents and we all have weaknesses. And my talents lie in the human condition and in the humanity part of real estate in particular. So that if I were to really push stats on a client or talking to somebody that I don't know, it would not come across very natural.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense.
And enough to, like, okay, I'm not an idiot. Some people would beg to differ. But no, I think it's important to learn all the time. But there's that human element that, for me, that's it. That's everything. It starts there.
So you were talking earlier about, like, I don't gel with everybody. And that's something that we all deal with. Like, you're the real estate version of all of our WordPress friends, right? You're choosing something that gives you freedom.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's what we've chosen also, right? We've chosen to work at home. We've chosen to work in tech or whatever for the freedom of that. But this client situation, how do you know, like, what are your, like, oh yeah, that's not going to work? What are your red flags when you're dealing with clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a lot of it is experience, a lot of mistakes. And I think anytime I start feeling resentful, I listen to the resentment. Why am I so resentful? Why am I so resentful talking to this person, listening to this person? It's experience, because I've made mistakes where one time I've walked away from a deal before anything was signed. And I said, and then I had another client for a year. The house never sold. Oh, and it was terrible. It was terrible, because I really felt convicted that I was right about the price of the house. And I kept going back and forth with the seller, but it was experience, because I would never handle it now the way I did 4 years ago.
Right.
So there's nothing better than experience, because we're going to make mistakes and we're going to learn. I think too, the more you really put yourself out there and learn to be the most comfortable you are, the more discerning you get. And those red flags are sometimes not always alike. So I was brought up by my mother, who always said, honey, listen to your little voice. And that becomes more and more apparent the longer I do this. And so there you go.
So I was going to ask, like, okay, so you're used to dealing with people in fearful situations. And right now you have everything on the spectrum of, no, I'm not going to wear a mask. The governor is crazy, making Orange County shut down our beaches. We're not as dense as anywhere else. This is ridiculous. To, why are you trying to kill me because you're not wearing a mask? Do you hate everybody that lives around you? How are you dealing with getting things notarized? I've talked to people. Now I have a real estate client in Phoenix, and things are closing. Like, it's fine. But how are you dealing with, like, okay, to put it in offer, to sign this, escrow, viewing the house. There's some of these things that have to be done in person. You need the notary to look at you, and you have to put your thumb stamp there.
Like a real thumb.
You gotta lick it, put on the ink pad, get all your flu viruses and hepatitis on there, you know.
Yeah, it's people are still selling, people are still buying.
Yeah, I see it all the time.
Isn't it amazing? And I'm in it, and I just closed an escrow last week with my buyers, and they ended up. Well, first of all, let me just say this. Okay, here's a novel idea for realtors today. Guess what? They have to work. They actually have to make more of an effort. And by that I mean, with on top of all the standards, the documents, there's different. The state of California has already issued several new documents because of COVID, and we're all learning. We're all new. Even the most seasoned agents. Oh my gosh, how do I do this? What do I do? But on the other hand, it's like, okay, you know what? Let's raise that bar. Let's learn what we can learn and not be afraid of change. And that's really hard because, you know, real estate is like, oh, you sell a house, put a sign up, you know, have a couple open houses. So things like virtual technology can be very powerful. It's what you do with it. It's what you do with it. And I think that, just to back up a little bit, what you said about the notary, my buyers actually ended up going to escrow live and in person, stand way apart. And they notarized in person. Now I have heard, but it's masks. It's like, you know, this kind of thing. It's adapting. And there's also mobile notaries that can come to your house, but still other than that though, there's so much that can be done online. There really is. It's like virtual tours. And I think that's where, you know, realtors are being sort of forced in a way to, oh, I better learn this. And all of that is learnable, just like the stats. But it still comes down to human connection. It still comes down to, you know, you seeing me, I'm seeing you, and am I the right person to sell your house, whether it's through a pandemic or not? And let me tell you, I just finished with my buyers. We started in November, and it's, you know how I live near Castle Park. It's a really fun little poor man's Disneyland.
Been there plenty of times.
Castle Park, woohoo! And you know, they have the kiddie rides, and they have like a little roller coaster that just has a couple of little, like you can feel it a little bit, the little dips. Okay, but then there's like Magic Mountain. I can't even tell you all the roller coasters. It's not my jam, but that is the kind of roller coasters my buyers and I have just gone through. And part of it was pre-pandemic versus like, and we're in the middle of this. They had an offer on a house. The seller, this was right at the beginning of the whole lockdown, the seller got really nervous because they were moving to a bigger house payment. And then it's like, you know what? I don't think we want to do this. I'm not going to do it. So seller pulled out. So my buyer, oh my gosh. Okay, well, now what? Then my buyers just said they were exhausted. Oh, they said, okay, you know what? We're putting this on hold. We're not going to do anything till September. And you know what? I'm okay. Whew, I'm going to breathe with you guys, and we'll just keep in touch. And what am I going to do? Like, no, you better buy now. You know, it's so, I saw what these people were going through, and there's so many homes we looked at, all that stuff. So what ended up happening is that my buyer, she found this house, okay, on her own, and she called me, and I said, I thought you wanted to take a break. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you hallucinating or whatever? And she said, no, this house is kind of special. I really want to go see it. Well, it turns out, and of course, by now, I'm trying to think, are we locked out? I think so. So then it's like, okay, well, and this is before California Associated Realtor had implemented this particular document I won't go into. So anyway, the house was vacant, and I showed it to her, and she says, yeah, this is the house. She had been in the house before, years previous, with from a friend who they used to work together. And she was just drawn to the house, drawn to this house. And then it turns out that her husband loved it too. We put in the offer, it was accepted. And then the more we got into this, April, COVID, okay, now you're gonna have a home inspection. I can't be there. I let the home inspector in. Have a nice day, go do your thing. She closed. That was weird. That was a different thing. Because usually I'm there. And so these are just changes that have to be made. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that because it was like pre-pandemic and then in the middle of all this, and that's where I realized, having gone through that experience, that we need to really think about the motivation. What is important? Now, they didn't have to buy, they were renting, and they were really tired of renting. And she had, after this whole thing, before she found this house, it was like, okay, you know what? We're just going to pay rent. We're just going to pay the rent. I don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm so tired of this. I'm so disillusioned. And then she found this house and we closed. And so, like my other client with the manufactured home, she really does need to sell. She needs the finances. She needs that stability.
Yeah.
So that is, and I'm originally a Jersey girl, right? So you can nudge a little. You can nudge with care and compassion.
Yeah.
Nudging is okay if it's done in a very authentic way.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I am with her right now. Yeah, did I answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, like John Alisi's been doing these videos, kind of like how you write these stories.
Yes.
And he was answering some questions. Like, people are saying, why is anybody even buying and selling real estate right now? Like, aren't you super greedy? And he was talking about some code thing, like it's a finance thing. Like I think it's like a capital gains situation,
Okay.
where if you have a certain amount of time after you sell your home in order to buy a new one,
Right.
before that's all considered profit, and you're in big trouble with Uncle Sam.
Mm-hmm.
So like, is there any of that kind of situation that's propelling real estate at this moment too?
Yes, it is. And that's why there's not a realtor for every client. There's not every client's not going to have every realtor. I deal best with hand-holding. I deal best with that advocating. And when someone is like in a situation where they have to do something, like right now, you just have to take that for what it is. And it's kind of like, when way back in the Obama days, what was it called? There was a stimulus you were given.
Yeah,
$8,000.
because of the 2008 recession.
Yeah, right. So even then I was feeling like, okay, that's an incentive. We all want incentives. But if it's not the right time for you, I don't know. It's such a mixed bag. And so people who are on, like, they have capital gains, that's a real thing. And you don't want to miss that. I mean, that's a big deal to miss that, whatever that 2-year limit is. And so I would never dismiss that. I would never dismiss somebody who, like, these are real concerns. These are real concerns. But the COVID, whatever your beliefs are,
Yeah.
like you're saying, don't wear a mask, this is all a conspiracy, any of that. Put it to the side.
Yeah.
Put it to the side and listen and do what's right. And do what's right.
Have you found that your clients are extra stressed right now because of that underlying?
Definitely. Definitely. The hesitation is real. What am I going to say? There's nothing to be worried about. Now, there are steps that we can take. And in real estate, like anything else, we get so used to our little, but I've always done it this way. And outside the box, baby, you got to think outside the box. And it really is possible to sell. And it's probable that you're going to sell your house. And you think, well, who is buying these homes? Oh, let's talk about loans. I'm not going to talk about loans because I'm not a lender. And then you have like, oh, but you're never going to get a lower interest rate than you are now. All of these things have that kernel of truth. Okay.
Yeah.
They really do. But again, it's all about the individual, And my client who needs to sell her mom's home, I want her to have that money. I want her to have that security. And I will do it on her time, but with my nudging. And the two of us will work. And I'm earning that trust. And some people don't really care about trust. Well, I guess people do, but I'm saying that it's not just a numbers thing. It's not just look at all the homes I've sold. Look at, what I've done here, what I've done there. I'm the top sales. And I am not diminishing anybody who markets themselves that way. There's no judgment. It's just that we have to do what we believe in for ourselves. And, I'll talk to anybody. I will listen. Hi.
I think you have to in this time, because the fact that there are people that need to leave their homes. Like they literally have to get out of the situation that they're in. And a lot of them are going to end up either moving in with their parents, more for as a security type thing, where it's just like, I want to make sure that, that they're taken care of, and that it sucks that I have to live with them because I haven't lived with them since I was a kid, but they need me just as much as I need them. And this is just what we're going to have to do to kind of make sure things happen. And so I'm hearing that time and time again from friends where I'm just like, wow, you're moving back in with your parents. So like, oh, I'm not moving. Like they're kind of moving in with me. I was like, oh, yes, I see what's going on here. Okay.
Absolutely. And I think part of a realtor's position, a role is of a facilitator. And that's where it gets a little tricky, because when you have different family members, it's not my job to make everything, like I can't make everything right. But what I can do, it's very diplomatic. And so people who have to sell a house or have to move back in, whether it's selling, whether it's leasing, whatever, it really is a role of a facilitator and a problem solver. It's very much, there's a lot of mediation involved, even though I'm not a professional mediator, although that wouldn't hurt. Because this is a very, we are dealing with human beings here. Yeah. And on top of that are the financial strains and the uncertainty of, can I make my mortgage? Can I make my rent? That is so real. And I don't think we really even, nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows. So we have to deal with what we have to deal with right now.
That's so key. And like that uncertainty is such a great segue to talk about this really great organization. You may have known them formerly as WP and Up. They have been rebranded to Big Orange Heart. Together, we support and promote positive well-being and mental health within the remote work communities. Together, we can press forward. You can find out more about their services at bigorangeheart.org. We want to reach out to remote workers at large, not just people who work in WordPress, because we are seeing so many people working at home now with so many issues of loneliness, isolation, escalation of issues in marriages, escalations of abuse. And our big question at bigorangeheart.org is, how are you? There is going to be some really amazing tools. There are some tools right now. So please go visit bigorangeheart.org. There's somebody there to talk to you today. That's
wonderful.
That's so cool.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really like, whoa, I'm scared for people. I'm scared for people who aren't used to living together as much as they are, and who literally don't feel safe. It's a really crazy time, but like, you're right. Like, people have to move on. We have to still do things we have to do, and I hear everything on the map of this is going to be like the Great Depression. This is going to be another recession. Oh, we were going to have a recession anyway. Like, that's when I'm like, this is my crazy brain. It would be cheaper if I died. Like, I know I don't have any heirs. I haven't paid for my funeral arrangements yet. Like, that's still, on my back burner. But also, like, the thought of having another 2009 terrifies me to the point where I feel like, oh my God, that's it. I'm moving to Vermont or Nashville or Atlanta, just anywhere, not California. Yeah. And I know for me that no decision based in fear is ever a good one. Like, are you encountering any of the Exodus sales like we saw kind of around 1997, like there's these cycles of waves like there used to be when people came to California. There's cycles of waves where they leave California.
I have seen a little bit of it, but that happened just in the last couple of years. I have sold homes. People have moved out of state, by California. I don't sense a panic, though. I don't sense. I sense sort of hurry up and wait. We always think maybe another place is going to be better than where we're at. But I think that, it's very important to just stay grounded and deal with our reality, deal with the changes in real estate that have to be made. The changes are there, and it's up to us as a realtor, not unlike a counselor in a way, to just reassure. And it doesn't mean everything's perfect. It doesn't mean everything is horrible. Somewhere in between, let's stick with the reality of the situation. Let's ask the right questions and deal with everybody on an individual basis. And that's hard to do with our herd mentality, with our stuff that we read, stuff that we hear. I mean, even without COVID, even without COVID.
Yeah.
We're just like, well, I heard this and I heard that. And it's really a challenge to stay grounded right now.
So how are you managing the in-person side of it? I know that, like for me, I work at a church. I'm their IT director. I have to go into the office and make sure things are working correctly. I don't have to go every single day, but I go in and I have vendors that I'm working on. We have a huge construction project I have going. So we have tons of people that are moving around and doing things. How are you kind of going through and dealing with the in-person side of it? When I was going through and looking for the photo to put on the background of this, I was trying to find a house that was for sale, but wasn't ready for sale yet. Like you could see the background there on the right below me on the left-hand side, the grass is all jacked up. The pool itself's a little dirty and stuff. I didn't go and find like that $1 million home or multi-million-dollar home. Knowing that, the houses that you're trying to sell, Carin, aren't just like the ones that someone has like fully polished. It's like this house has like been lived in for generations, and now they're having to go and to sell it. So how are you kind of managing that side of it? And then when it comes to dealing with people that have to come into the home, how are you managing that side of it as well?
Well, it depends on if it's vacant, if there are actual sellers living there. In my particular case, the one I'll be listing is vacant. And I've heard, I went on, but I've heard. First of all, I work for brokerage that my broker is still very in tune with all of us. We have a special Facebook page, private Facebook page. He is in constant communication with all of us. I just called him last week at the end of my escrow. He's just there. He's present. And as far as dealing, like meeting people, there's a thing called the phone. I still use it.
I'm familiar.
There are those meetings I do miss at Starbucks. Let's just meet at the coffee shop. Let's just have a really quick conversation. But there's this. There are so many different ways of connecting, and there's, for me, it's kind of like social media. Social media is just an extension of relationships. It's not the crux or the holy grail of relationships. It's just an extension. So that's the way I look at it right now. I can't see everybody I want to see in person. And there is a fear of going into a house. Right now, California, you cannot have a real open house, like a live open house. You just can't. And there are certain mandates, like only 2 people at a time looking through a home. And even with a vacant home, I'm thinking, okay, so I could leave. Some agents are leaving booties. They're providing masks for buyers, and some. At least I will do this with my listing. Is I really ask for a pre-qualification, a pre-approval letter from a lender.
Yeah.
No looky-loos. No, okay, let's really get down to, are you serious about doing this? And so between what's mandated and what our beliefs are, somewhere we have to marry those two.
What about all the touching though?
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Not touching each other, but the touching
the stuff, the table, and you would be their agent notes. They're very showing instructions are very specific about that. And some listing agents will actually require that they are there while you show it, because then they'll do the cleaning after the buyer leaves. And I would, that is perfectly understandable. And so again, you got to work. You really have to put the effort into your client and making sure that they feel safe and that they feel confident in your facilitation and whatever that takes. Okay. touching stuff and cleaning and all that. Yeah.
How much of that do you think will stay?
Uh,
Like post
I hope a lot of it.
9/11, you know,
I
like
hope a lot of it does.
I mean, I never really thought about it, but now I'm like,
Right.
gross. Like, I mean, I have an autoimmune disease, so I'm already like Howard Hughes. But I mean, for regular people, you know,
it's not a bad thing, believe me. This is actually a positive thing, because usually when you show a home, the seller is not there. Okay, now the thing is, a seller can just leave for a little bit and come back, because it's always uncomfortable for a buyer to go in and the seller's sitting right there. And
Right.
it's like, okay, I can't really be open about like, oh, I just love everything in this house. And so you're like, okay, I'm going to gut the kitchen as soon as we buy it. So, you know, things like the cleanliness and, you know, in a way it's kind of good, because open houses are really weird and there's a lot of stuff that's gone on. And personally, when I do an open house, I don't like to be alone. So there's some safety issues. And again, I don't live in fear of that, but raise your conscience, you know, and yeah, stuff like touching and are they looking through my things? That is a very valid point. Aside from the cleaning part, but just if you think about, like, these people are coming into my house, but now it's only 2 at a time. It's only 2 at a time. So I think that, you know, everybody is a Zillow person, a Realtor.com. Buyers have been doing this for years. They're doing their research. They may not know exactly what they want, but they're doing their research and what they're looking for in a house. And so there's still so much you can do before you even enter a building.
has it changed the list of houses you'll show them? You know, like, oh, I would like everything with 2 or more bedrooms. Okay, well, that's 147,000 listings.
You know what? I think it depends. My wonderful buyers that just closed, that was necessary. It was necessary for them to look at a lot of homes. And sometimes you can't start very strategically because they don't really know. And through seeing, and this is back in the day, you didn't need any form. You weren't on lockdown. You could just walk to a house, make an appointment, or use your super key and walk in. It's really, so if you're not able to do that, then okay, you know what? We're virtual. You're virtual. And I will say this too. Little side note. My own observation is I'm finally starting to see through the MLS showing instructions, agent notes. There was a time it was like, you know what? Is anybody going to bring up COVID? It's like, you know, like they were just normal showing instructions, like go direct, you know, please make an appointment, but nothing about the forms that you're supposed to use, all this. I'm seeing that more and more, but it's been interesting because it's been gradual. It wasn't like, okay, just like one day it was this, another day it was that. So that is becoming part of our new normal. And that's good. That's an important thing, because don't avoid COVID. Do not avoid it. Let's deal with it as it is and get through that. It's an extra layer now. It's an extra layer, but it's not it's not this unmovable boulder.
Right. And I think that even when what Bridget was saying about, you know, the fact that you're having to clean houses and you're having to make sure all the things, you know, I mentioned doorknobs, there's tons of things that need to be cleaned and dealt with and everything. But I also feel that at some point, you know, even though people still need to buy and sell houses and do all that stuff, that people are going to have a kind of a choice in which if they're whether or not they're going to want to go into a new space, to just look at it, to see it. It's like they're going to have to do it virtually or something like that. And I don't know, people are just going to they're going to have to go through and essentially have these like little bits of mental notes there that they're going to go like, I don't feel like I should go in this space. You know, I work at a church. It's a physical experience going to this place. And it's like, could we stand 6 feet away from each other? It's like, yeah, but there's not enough 6 feet.
Yeah,
it's the same thing with like, everybody piles into Karen's car. We all drive to all the different houses and we all look at the houses, and you can't even do that now. So now you're essentially doing a caravan of cars driving around, look at everybody's stuff. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
People buy cars online.
Yeah.
And it's something else too, just to get a little real estatey. There's this thing called Contingency Period, and there are homes that, regardless of COVID, you can't see them. Maybe a tenant's in there, and it's all based on subject to inspection. So you have this period of time. In California, it's usually 17 days. And during that time, you can get your home inspection. It's just time for everybody to have all the disclosures together, everything. So during that time, if buyers haven't haven't released contingencies, they can still back out of the deal. They can still get their earnest money deposit. So that is something that I tell people, that just to calm them down a little bit, because it's so weird to think like, oh, I'm going to buy a house and never see it before I purchase. That's so bizarre.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre to me, like people buy a car without test driving, but they do. They do. And
they
so,
totally do.
And again, that's, there are ways, there are avenues, different paths to take where it's already it's so scary to buy a house. And you know what? It's scary to sell a house. There's just like, it's huge. Okay. I don't care. In the best of circumstances, in the best of market, it's very scary, especially if you haven't done it very often. And, like I said, COVID adds layers that realtors must deal with. They got to.
Well, I want to transition into our next thing, which is our tool or tip of the week. Our tool or tip of the week this week is brought to you by Adobe Spark Post. With Adobe Spark Post, you can generate a color palette for free in just a few minutes. This color palette picker can help you better understand color and how it can improve your brand identity. First, sift through our pre-selected palettes, and I'm going to show you a little visual here of our pre-selected palettes. That can be personalized to your liking. You can also save your brand colors to your local library for easy access and future designs. Use the eyedropper tool to find sample colors for your images and logos. Allow yourself room to play around with your palettes, get creative, and feel inspired by what your design is communicating. Develop your brand's aesthetic with Adobe Spark Post's color palette. If you haven't checked out Adobe Spark, I've been playing around with it for graphics for social media. I've been playing around with it for kind of building out new images and new things like that. If you haven't checked it out, it's a really cool thing to kind of load up and just play around with. You can load up for free and just kind of mess around with it and see how it works. But the part that we were focusing on the most with that was their color palette picker, which is really cool because you just like throw some images in there and it just gives you colors. So feel free to go take a look at that. We appreciate their support.
I feel like I want to do yoga now.
Right?
Yeah, I know, right? Bridget, do you want to start us off with your tour tip of the week?
Sure. My tour tip of the week is GramSpacer app. GramSpacer app is $2.99 in the App Store. Andrew Lee made it. It's freaking awesome. I mean, I have so many strong opinions about emoji, especially inside text, because your brain goes from reading words to a picture, and there's a disjunct. It just stops. It stops you from reading. I wish that everybody would please just take my tip and don't use it, but they've used it. They've used those emoji to break up lines. Well, now you don't have to. With GramSpacer app, you open the app, you type in whatever you want, or you type it somewhere else and throw it in there. Push return, like on a typewriter. You get those hard line breaks. Then there's a big thing at the top that says tap in order to copy. You tap it, you go back to your post where the image is that you, of course, made in Canva or Adobe Spark. That has big, giant text so people can actually read it. And then you press paste, and boom, it's there. It stays there. It doesn't get messed up. There's not a bunch of weird periods all over the place for your fake hijacking. It is freaking awesome. I love it. It's like the best $3 I spent in a long, long time. I'm telling you, it's making me loving like kind of mini blogging again. And I wrote a big post the other day, and yeah, love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Definitely worth $3.
That's pretty cool. So
Right?
it lets you type in new lines on each of the
right. And then when you actually post it, they actually show up right. Not all weird and hijacked because using some weird font to make it happen or whatever. Hate that.
I guess I never type in comments in Instagram where I need to have more than one line in it. But
right,
if
because
that's
you're not doing that. Like girls are doing that.
You're not wordy.
No, I'm like, that's cool, bro.
Not that comment, not commenting on people's stuff. Your own captions. It's on your own captions.
When you write your, my dissertation.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, there's people I read like Carin who are long. But I want
like a mini blog.
Yeah, but I want to read that. Like, and this just makes it easier for your eyes.
So cool.
Some of us wear these, and if you haven't, you will when you're 40. I did it happen when I was 42.
I have contact lenses. Okay.
So,
and I haven't been 40 in 20 years.
I know, right? But like, I keep thinking of the people that, even the Cox Communications email I got yesterday. I took a screenshot and then sent it back to them. Said, first of all, contrast. Secondly, this is like 4-point font on my phone. Love, Bridget.
Yeah.
What do you got for us, Carin? Before I hijack the rest of the show with my vision.
No, I think I've made my point. And one other thing is education. Okay, having an open mind. Right now, there's a plethora of webinars. There are so many emails that come into my box, like how to sell during COVID. Really. Just like, again, how to be your client's trusted advisor during COVID. So these things, pick and choose. I'm always educating myself all the time when my board of realtors. That kind of education is really important. And I just really thank you for this time, because it's really a wonderful conversation to have. And I really love talking about, I'm a little passionate about the humanity part of what I do. It's everything.
Well, I'll show you guys mine. So I've been playing around with a couple different video editing suites. I don't necessarily want to go and buy like $300 video editing software for my Mac. Maybe at some point I might, I don't know. But obviously this isn't a sponsored thing or anything like that. But the folks over here at wave.video is what I use to build our intro video for the show today.
Nice.
And so it's kind of an interesting little piece here, but what it does is it makes it so that you could throw together a bunch of videos and photos and audio clips, and even kind of do spoken word over on top of it, and be able to kind of throw all those pieces together and make a video out of it.
Wow.
So for right now I know they have a COVID special, which is why I did it, because it's kind of expensive. But what this does is it lets you
special.
Yeah, you can go in and do this. It's all through the web. You just kind of go and put all the pieces that you want together into it, hit save, and then it gives you a video file that you can download. They're kind of the piece that kind of makes this expensive is the fact that they want you to host the video with them. almost like how like Wistia or one of those types of like services
yeah.
does. And I don't necessarily need that. Like, I'm going to play this on this. I'm already paying for the system we're using to kind of stream this stuff live.
Right.
But to kind of go in here real quick and easy and just like, you know, open up one of these and take a look at it, hit edit. And then while you're in there, it, you know, does a little quick little video thingy. And then you'll be able to go in and make changes to that video. And so you kind of get a video editor at the bottom here. You can get, you know, here's our ads that we just, you know, that we did earlier. So you can get those. And then you have, you know, support us on Patreon. You have like all those sorts of pieces that are in here. And you can go and quickly and easily just like make changes to how this is going to look. So you don't have to like build from scratch, but you still get the layouts and the different layers and the watermarks and audio. Like the audio was audio that came from these guys as well. The video that plays in the background is video that I selected from their list of videos. So it's all kind of built in. It was pretty simple. And what's neat about it is I can go and take this and say, I want to turn this into a vertical video, or I want to turn this into a square video for Instagram.
What I was gonna ask.
Yeah. So I can go in here and just say like, you know, I want this to be a square video. Boom, square video. Like I don't have to vertical video. Boom, vertical video.
So you can make an IGTV video.
You totally could. Yep. So it's an interesting product, and it's something that I, no joke, have only played with for about 2 or 3 days now. And it was one of these things where I saw it and I was like, I don't know, this might not be like the best tool to use to build this. And then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play around with it a little bit and see if I can make this happen. What I think is neat about it is the fact that the tool itself isn't what is not going to be the limiting factor for you. Because if you want to go in here real quick and say, I want to make a horizontal video and I want to make it for a particular industry. So if I'm doing like, let's say like interior design or something like that, you have this like white background interior design video. If I go and open this up, like my video is ready to go. I hit edit and now I can start editing this video. So like somebody like Carin could come up with like a quick little video on here's the interior design work for
working hard. That's Carin the Realtor remotely working hard.
Right there.
So when you hit play,
all the places you touched.
Yeah. But you hit play
my cleaning wipes.
And it does it.
Wow,
and if you want to add a call to action, you can add a call to action here real quick and stick that in there. If you want to add some text, you can add some text in there.
Call me on the phone. It still works.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So pricing wise, just so you know, pricing wise for this is they charge $29 a month for the creator plan. If you get it monthly, or that's annually, but if you get it monthly, then it's $39. So it's a little bit outside of what I would want to pay for software that I'm just going to be building very small little videos for, which is like that balance, because their big thing here is that they're giving you 30 gigabytes of space. And they're giving you a custom player. And it's like, I really don't need that. I just need this to be a cool editor. Yeah. And it is a cool editor. Like it did a great job of doing our intro and all that stuff. But it's I don't know, it's a little bit too much for what I need. And so maybe for this month, I'll just be building out a bunch of these things and hitting save. And
yeah.
Hey, Bridget, what's our next 10 shows? I don't know. We're just going to put the guests in there and hope they show up.
Exactly. So I want to wrap up here. I do want to let you know if you can go over to our website over on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler, you can support us. If enough of you do it, I may be able to afford this wave.video stuff. But before we do that, and before we even pay for any of those things, we've been paying for our transcription services. And I think transcription is super important for us, because we want to make sure that people are able to read our content both on our website as well as closed captioning on the bottom of the screen. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, you're seeing a computer essentially generate this right now. And if I talk really fast like I am right now, then it probably is not going to do a very good job of interpreting that. So yeah, make sure you go over to our website and go check that out. I want to wrap up here and let you know that you can go to WPwatercooler.com youtube.com/subscribe, where you can learn how to subscribe to this and all the other content that's over there. Feel free to go take a look at that. I haven't updated our graphic yet, Bridget. My apologies. And we're also a podcast. So if you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can do that too. Go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe. Carin, thank you very much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it.
I loved it. I adore you guys. And thank you for this platform. This is a wonderful conversation. A lot of podcasts lately. I've been listening.
Yeah, a lot of podcasts. Talk to y'all later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.